Okay. Hmm. Now I can't see the time.
Yeah.
Is it 1 minute past? Or?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Okay. Let's make a start. Okay. Welcome, everybody. It's really great to see you. Thank you so much for your participation in this event. This is a learning exchange for pathfinding countries on the topic of work to end corporal punishment of children. And just maybe the first thing to say is that interpretation is available at the bottom of your screen under the globe icon. So you can find translation between English, French and Spanish down there. So it's great to have you with us today. The aim of this event is to create a relaxed opportunity to hear the experiences of pathfinding countries working on corporal punishment, and to have an informal discussion and with opportunity for questions and answers at the end. And we're really grateful to hear from, I think it's either 5 or 6 experiences from different countries. That's going to be really important and rich opportunity to hear about that work. And this learning exchange is taking place as part of events surrounding the International Day to End Corporal Punishment of Children, which is on the 30th of April on Saturday. And as you know, corporal punishment is the most common form of violence against children. Evidence suggests that around 1.3 to 1.7 billion children every year around the world experience violent punishment. And that in particular, children under 5 are extra likely to experience it. Around 3/4 of under 5s regularly experience physical punishment. There's strong evidence of the harms of corporal punishment. Around 50 years of research has been carried out identifying the harms associated with this form of violence against children, which are, connected to emotional effects, physical harm, effects on cognitive development, brain development, educational achievement, aggression, violence and perpetration of violence later in life. So the evidence from research is really very, very clear and conclusive now that corporal punishment is harmful for children and has no benefits. And we are glad to see that around the world, support for corporal punishment is declining in many places, and there are very lively discussions taking place and lots of work being done. But this is not quick enough for children. This needs to happen more quickly now. So that's what we're calling for on International Day to End Corporal Punishment this year.
Allô? Nous, on vous entend pas en français. On vous entend pas en français.
Okay. Maybe we need to give him guidance about how to access the interpretation. Which channel is it in French? So I can tell him.
If you go to the globe icon at the bottom of the screen.
Okay, sorry. Si vous allez sous l'écran, vous verrez un globe et c'est écrit interprétation et vous devrez trouver la traduction en français.
En interprétation.
Oui, vous cliquez sur French. OK.
Oui,
vous pouvez vous mettre aussi. Bon, je vais vous mettre en mute. OK. Go ahead, Bess.
Perfect. Good. Welcome to this discussion. And we know that lots of countries are working to end corporal punishment, and that all of us are on a long journey to eliminating corporal punishment, and that we'll hear some of that experience here. Okay, I'm just going to share a few housekeeping notices. Okay, so as Sonia has explained, interpretation between French, Spanish and English is available at the bottom of your screen next to the globe icon. if you ask a question or make a comment, it really helps the interpreters if you can just briefly announce your language at the start so they can switch the channel. And if you can rename yourself and include your organization or department and country, that would be great so that we know where everybody is coming from. Okay, I think I'm going to hand over to Sonia now for a few opening words about corporal punishment.
Thank you, Beth. Hello, everyone. It's nice to see you all, and I hope we're going to have some fruitful discussion, informal exchange, learning exchange on national efforts to end corporal punishment. I will start, it's just to set the scene, actually. We talk about the progress in achieving prohibition and elimination of corporal punishment globally. And then I will share some of our resources which can support national efforts to end corporal punishment. You must be familiar with this chart that you're seeing now. As you can see, as at, okay, we have 2021, but as at April 2022, we have 63 countries that have prohibited corporal punishment in all settings, including in the home. So we can clearly see the momentum. 1979, we had Sweden, and now we have 63 countries. The last countries to have prohibited corporal punishment was Colombia last year. And then, okay, we can see, for instance, in 2014, we had 8 countries in 1 year prohibiting corporal punishment. So there's a clear momentum, and then it's a campaign that is picking up. So if we go to the next slide, you will see the map. This is just a map to show where prohibition has been achieved, depending on the setting. You could see that in some countries, as I said, we have achieved full prohibition. In some other countries, we have prohibition in particular settings. And then you also have countries where there's no prohibition at all in any setting. So you can see them in purple. In fact, when we talk about 63 countries prohibiting corporal punishment, that represents only 14% of the child population globally. So we still have a lot more to do, because all children have to be protected, legally protected against corporal punishment. And when we talk about legally, we're talking about the law. But if we have the law, the law also needs to be implemented. So that's another level as well. So we just wanted to show that picture to give you an idea. And also, why are we trying to end corporal punishment? Obviously, ending corporal punishment is required by international and regional human rights convention, like the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. But it's also a development goal, the SDGs, as you know. Target 16.2 require states to end all forms of violence against children, including corporal punishment, by 2030. And also ending corporal punishment speaks to other SDGs, like the SDG target. We have 3, SDG target 3 for good health and well-being. SDG 4, quality education, because obviously if we end corporal punishment in schools, then we can ensure quality education. And SDG 5, which talks about gender equality, because there's a gender aspect to corporal punishment of children. So this is important to put that into context, as we know that with campaigning to end corporal punishment, we're also trying to achieve the SDG targets. Next slide. So these are just briefly some resources that we have. We have a plethora of resources which you can find on our website. But for instance, recently we published guidance on implementing laws to end corporal punishment. So we have it in 8 languages. So this is quite important, and it's a really powerful tool to achieve elimination of corporal punishment. We also have booklets about frequently asked questions. So this is important as well. We have it in several languages. We have specific Q&A, FAQ actually, about the school settings, and then also general questions that are being asked about how to end corporal punishment. And we also have a compilation of research on the negative effect of corporal punishment and also the impact of prohibiting corporal punishment. So it's a compilation of research, again, translated in several languages. So you may access all these resources on our website, and then you can see also the address here below. So I think we wouldn't want to talk too much because we want to obviously give you time to discuss, and it's a learning exchange between pathfinding countries. So at this stage, we're going to move to our short presentation, 7-minute presentation from national efforts. So we should start with Colombia. I don't know if we have Colombia, but it should be Mr. Diego Felipe Otero. Okay, I can say him here. He's the coordinator of the National Alliance to End Violence Against Children. So he's going to talk about the Colombian experience. As you know, I was just saying that Colombia is the last country to have prohibited corporal punishment in all settings. So we look forward to hearing from Diego on this effort and successful campaign. Diego, over to you.
Bueno, muy buenos días a todas y todos. Gracias a la Alianza Global por hacernos partícipe de este evento para poder presentar la experiencia de Colombia para poner fin al castigo físico, los tratos humillantes, degradantes hacia la niñez. No sé si ven mi presentación en este momento. Ok, perfecto. Dame un segundo. Vamos a ver, hay un contexto en Colombia que está relacionado con una información con la cual contamos a partir de la VAX, en la cual, pues en Colombia podemos partir que hay una violencia que se encuentra generalizada, es sistemática y aceptada, digamos, por la población en general. Encontramos que se han presentado distintas formas de violencia, y de acuerdo con los parámetros de la encuesta VAX, tenemos que las personas que fueron encuestadas, al ser menores de edad, el 41% manifestaron haber sido víctimas de alguna forma de violencia. Y estas formas de violencia, de acuerdo con la encuesta que da para Colombia, estas formas de violencia ocurrieron en el hogar, y tenemos que tener en cuenta que el hogar debe ser el entorno protector por excelencia de la niñez, y en el país, digamos, esto no está ocurriendo. Y tenemos distintas formas de violencia. Las niñas, aquí hay unos resultados bien particulares. Las niñas sufren en Colombia, de acuerdo con la encuesta, de mayor violencia sexual y violencia psicológica. Y frente a la violencia física, si bien los registros administrativos en el país, a través de los registros de protección, de justicia, nos dan que siempre son las niñas las más violentadas, aquí pasó algo en la encuesta en el 2018, en la que los niños o los hombres manifestaron ser más víctimas de violencia física, perdón. Y aquí es donde encontramos, pues digamos, probablemente que haya un subregistro también en los registros administrativos, y este tipo de violencia no se da a conocer en el entorno, en los distintos entornos. Tenemos aquí unos registros en el marco de las evaluaciones médico-legales del Instituto Nacional de Medicina Legal, donde encontramos que la mayoría de casos, cuando entran al sector justicia y se hacen estas valoraciones médico-legales, se presentan entre los 12 y los 17 años de edad. En el 2021 se presentaron 3.166 casos. Después están las edades entre los 6 a los 11 años, con 1.537, y en la primera infancia entre los 0 a 5 años, 900 casos, más de 900 casos. Frente a los registros administrativos, aquí hay que hacer, digamos, dentro del año 2020 y 2021 tenemos las cifras que se dieron en el marco de la pandemia por COVID. Muchos de los servicios no estaban funcionando, la forma como acudir a las autoridades, y se presentaron durante el 2020 frente a los registros administrativos del Instituto Colombiano de Bienestar Familiar por inicio o ingresos al proceso administrativo de restablecimiento de derechos, 28.546 casos de violencia hacia niños, niñas y adolescentes, pues donde se resaltan los casos de violencia sexual, los casos por omisión y negligencia y de violencia física. Para el 2021, estos casos aumentaron a 38.875 registros administrativos para desarrollar la protección de los niños, niñas y adolescentes para tomar distintas medidas. Vemos un aumento en el 2021 y aquí pues esto implica en ese marco de las acciones que debemos desarrollar como Estado colombiano, pues el esfuerzo en generar esas acciones de prevención. Probablemente, entre más visibilicemos la problemática, van a aumentar las denuncias, van a aumentar estos registros administrativos en protección, pero la idea es que con el tiempo, estos registros vayan disminuyendo. Frente a estos compromisos que tenemos, existe el compromiso del gobierno colombiano en el actual Plan Nacional de Desarrollo, y la idea es poder continuar y generar esas acciones con próximos gobiernos para que podamos reducir la tasa de violencia en el país. En el marco del Plan Nacional de Desarrollo, una de las metas es la de reducirla al 14.3%. Eso es un trabajo, sabemos que es un trabajo difícil y es un trabajo que debemos adelantar a mediano y largo tiempo. Como bien lo exponían hace un momento, también está el compromiso con los objetivos de desarrollo sostenible, la Agenda 2030, de reducir, y la meta 16.2, el gran compromiso de prevenir todas las formas de violencia hacia la niñez, y otro de los compromisos, y que Colombia lo asumió, era la implementación del modelo INSPIRE en Colombia para poder desarrollar todas las acciones impulsadas desde la Alianza Global. En este marco de esta adaptación del modelo INSPIRE, Colombia formuló el Plan Nacional de Acción 2021-2024, el cual involucra a distintos actores de las autoridades de gobierno, la sociedad civil y las agencias de cooperación, donde tenemos distintas iniciativas, distintas acciones que promueven la prevención de las distintas formas de violencia. Ahora una de las estrategias es esta de prevenir, ¿no? el castigo físico, los tratos crueles, humillantes y degradantes hacia la niñez. En este marco del fortalecimiento y las acciones que se promueven dentro del modelo INSPIRE, Colombia ha fortalecido su marco legal, ¿no? Ha establecido a través de distintas leyes procesos para fortalecer las escuelas de padres, ¿no? Con distintas estrategias para vincular a la comunidad educativa en la prevención de las violencias. La ley 2081, que habla de la imprescriptibilidad de la violencia sexual contra niños y niñas. La ley 2089, la cual haré una intervención muy resumida frente a lo que venimos haciendo para prevenir el castigo físico, y la ley 2137, que establece el sistema de alertas tempranas para la prevención de la violencia sexual. Que el Congreso de Colombia expidió la ley 2089-2021, como bien decíamos, es uno de los últimos países, Colombia, a ingresar a este grupo en donde se prohíbe el castigo físico. Y pues se convocó a distintas autoridades a través de la ley para formular una estrategia nacional pedagógica. Esa es nuestra gran apuesta de país, implementar una estrategia que vincule a todos los actores que tienen el deber, la corresponsabilidad y la garantía de los derechos de niños, niñas y adolescentes. La Estrategia Nacional Pedagógica es una estrategia que cuenta con distintos componentes, una estrategia que busca generar el conocimiento, ¿no? Para que podamos usarlo y hacerlo vivo para poder fundamentar todas las acciones de política pública dirigidas a el fortalecimiento de capacidades de los niños y niñas como actores que puedan exigir sus derechos, acciones dirigidas a padres, madres y cuidadores, acciones dirigidas también a los funcionarios públicos, al sector comunitario, ¿no? Y también a la empresa privada. La idea es que podamos vincular también a la empresa privada en las acciones para prevenir estas violencias. Aquí están, digamos, estos son los 4 componentes que integran la Estrategia Nacional Pedagógica en la generación de conocimiento que permita llegar con conocimiento, esa evidencia que contamos en el mundo, los estudios puedan llegar de una forma comprensible, directa a la gente, en el marco, en un lenguaje simple. Y la idea es que todo este conocimiento, como les decía, sea utilizado para el fortalecimiento de capacidades de los distintos actores que interlocutan en los distintos entornos para la protección y la prevención de estas formas de violencia. La participación de niños, niñas, adolescentes es fundamental para escuchar sus voces, ¿no? Para saber qué están pensando y que permitan también un diálogo intergeneracional con los adultos y además para que los adultos aprendamos a garantizar el derecho a la participación. El derecho a la participación tiene que ser efectivo y concreto y se debe reflejado en las políticas públicas. Y pues tenemos la incidencia social donde podamos llevar todo este trabajo, toda esta acción en la plaza pública, en los parques, en los distintos hogares donde se encuentra la población en general, para que empecemos a hablar de este tema, para que empecemos a hablar concretamente sobre los efectos adversos que tiene una crianza con violencia y los efectos positivos de una crianza con respeto, con amor, ¿no? Con dignidad hacia los niños, niñas y adolescentes de la garantía de sus derechos humanos. Aquí es un resumen de los 4 componentes y para finalizar la intervención en este marco y en esta apuesta en la cual debemos estar unidos todos los actores corresponsables. Existen distintas estrategias en el marco del Instituto Colombiano de Bienestar Familiar. Existe una estrategia que se denomina Mi Familia y Mi Familia Universal, que busca apoyar a esas familias, ¿no? A esas familias que han encontrado o que sus niños, sus hijos e hijas cuentan con una medida de protección, pero también para poder vincular y dar herramientas a esos padres, madres y cuidadores para la protección y la prevención de estas formas de violencia. Contamos desde la presidencia de Colombia con la estrategia Crianza Amorosa más Juego, también que busca brindar este tipo de estrategias a padres, madres y cuidadores, y la alianza desde el Ministerio de Educación, Mi Familia, Escuela, donde vinculan a toda la comunidad educativa en torno a la prevención del uso de cualquier forma de violencia en este entorno escolar. Muchísimas gracias. Esto es así a grandes rasgos la apuesta de Colombia para prevenir esta forma de violencia hacia los niños, niñas y adolescentes. Gracias.
Thank you so much, Diego. Thank you for this interesting experience, for sharing the interesting experience of Colombia. We could see the role of data, the use of the VAX, the Violence Against Children survey, as well as development of a national action plan with a coordinated effort. We can see a multi-sectoral approach and the use of the INSPIRE model, the enactment of laws, all interesting. And also the strategy, because it's not only about having laws in place, but developing a strategy involving everyone, the preventing strategy to end on physical punishment. So this is really interesting, and I'm sure there will be questions about it. So we'll move to other, I think it's going to be Georgia, but definitely we'll ask more questions to Diego later. Thank you. So I think for Georgia, we are supposed to have Maka Peradze. Well, is she okay? You're around, so that's fine. Thank you. Head of the Human Rights Secretariat in Georgia. Georgia achieved prohibition of all corporal punishment in 2019. So it's interesting, and we know that they've started implementing the law, and a lot has happened. So we look forward to hearing from them. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. I will speak English. And thank you again for my introduction. I represent the administration of the government of Georgia. My name is Maka Peradze. The administration of Georgia is a structural unit responsible for the coordination of the work of executive branch, the policy making with them, and also the monitoring of the implementation of the strategies and action plans related to human rights issues. Combating violence against children, including corporal punishment, is a priority for the government. In this regard, Georgia is a part to all relevant international treaties aimed towards elimination of all forms of violence against children, like CRC, United Nations Convention on the Rights of Child, also so-called Lanzarote Convention, the Council of Europe Convention on the Protection of Child against Sexual Exploitation and Sexual Abuse. And additionally, Georgia committed to implement the Agenda for Sustainable Development and its goals directly related to strengthening child rights. In 2017, Georgia became a partner of the Global Partnership to End Violence Against Children, and later on in 2018, we got a status of Pathfinding country. Recently, we conducted policy dialogue with the involvement of relevant line ministries and state agencies, and have elaborated a governmental statement on the issues regarding the combating violence against children. So Georgia has numerous of legislative acts in place, but I would like to emphasize some of them which concerns exactly the rights of the child. The first one was adopted in 2015. It is a Juvenile Justice Code, which envisaged a high standards for the protection of child rights in the process of the justice. In 2016, the government of Georgia approved the child protection referral procedures, which ensures the referral mechanisms in case the child became a victim of any form of violence. And our recent achievement is the Code on the Right of the Child, which was adopted in 2019. And the code is a unified state policy document which sets specific effective mechanisms to ensure the well-being of children. The code prohibits any form of violence against a child unconditionally. The code states that corporal punishment, torture, any other cruel, degrading, or inhuman treatment or punishment of children shall be prohibited in the family, preschool or general education institutions, alternative care services, medical and or psychological or psychiatric institutions, penitentiary facilities, and any other places. Corporal punishment is a form of violence punishable under the Criminal Code of Georgia. There are two standalone articles that contains aggravating circumstances and increased penalty if the described act is committed against a minor when we are talking about physical assault. The one article regulates the violence, like let's say so ordinary violence, but the second article is specified and regulates the domestic violence, the offense committed between the family members. What is also important is that if the violence is committed in the presence of a minor, even if she or he was not targetedly assaulted, it's also considered as an aggravated circumstances for the criminal liability. Besides it, police is entitled to ensure a restraining order against a perpetrator, and in addition, minor victim has a right to apply for a protective order to the court independently. Separation of the child from the family is a last resort, which requires the decision of the social worker and the ruling of the court. The court decision as a prerequisite of the separation is prescribed by the Code of the Right of Child, which recognizes the supremacy of child's best interests. Now, I will move to the national mechanisms and monitoring mechanisms, how the implementation of the legislation is monitored by the supervisory bodies in the practice. The promotion and fulfillment of national and international obligations is a top priority for the administration of Georgia, and in this regard, in 2017, the government established the Interagency Commission for the implementation of the Convention on the Rights of Child and Children's Rights Issues. The commission is chaired by the head of the Human Rights Secretariat. Currently, I represent this position, and consists of the representatives of all key ministries: the Parliament, Supreme Court, Public Defender's Office, UNICEF, and other NGOs which works in the field of child rights. The Commission discussed progress and existing challenges related to child rights protection. How do we translate this policy in the policy papers? In 2014, for the first time, the National Human Rights Strategy was adopted, followed by 3 action plans. The strategy contained a separate chapter on the rights of children, especially through improving existing protection and assistance mechanisms, developing social services, and guaranteeing the provisions of high standards of education are set out as the provisions of the human rights strategy. Currently, Georgia is finalizing its work on the second national human rights strategy, which includes key provisions for the protection of children's rights. After the adoption of the strategy, the corresponding action plan will be elaborated, and the INSPIRE methodology will be used in the drafting process of the relevant chapter. The government of Georgia recognizes that it is crucial to carry out preventive measures and raise awareness on prohibition of and prevention of corporal punishment. Safety and public order in school is ensured by resource officers who also perform preventive measures when it comes to physical and psychological health of students. School resource officers conduct awareness-raising activities for school personnel and teachers on prohibition of violence, including corporal punishment. They also offer training for parents on good parenting skills and nonviolent communication. The national curriculum for primary stage of general education includes science classes, which aims to build up human values like nonviolent methods, tolerance, equality, also conflict resolution skills, etc., etc. And also it includes the information regarding the legal mechanisms which aims to protect child rights. In this light, Georgia ensures full access to common emergency phone number 112, which is of course free of charge. Additionally, helpline for children 111 was set recently, and it's run by the Agency for State Care and Assistance for the Victims of Human Trafficking, and is available 24 hours and 7 days. Despite the progress made by Georgia, prevention of corporal punishment, other forms of violence against children remains a challenge for Georgia. In this light, the government intends to carry out the following measures: to build the capacity of specialized prosecutors and investigators through training on violence against children, provide training for other professionals such as teachers, social workers, resource police officers working with children dedicated to identifying cases of violence and respond properly. Offer positive parenting classes, which I think is very important, and review child referral mechanisms in order to identify the existing challenges and improve coordination between relevant actors. Conduct awareness-raising campaign on prohibition of all forms of violence against children, focusing on the corporal punishments. I think I managed to fit in 7 minutes, and that was briefly about our progress and the plans. And of course, I'm open for the questions and answers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maka, for sharing the experience of Georgia. I'm sure there will be more questions. We heard about, obviously, your effort and then the national policy dialogue that you held, the laws and specific sanctions against the perpetrators, the implementation mechanism, and then the strategy that you're developing. I think it's a national human rights strategy with a focus on child protection that is coming soon. So it's very interesting. We'll be glad to see what it is and maybe share that experience with other countries. The use of Inspire. And it's also good to identify the challenges. And certainly we're going to discuss it because we often have questions about the challenges and how you address them. You talked about capacity building and training of professional and positive parenting. Certainly we'll have questions about that. So thank you so much, Maka. And then we're going to move to South Africa now. We're going to have Mr. Sami Maraba from his assistant director at the South African Department of Basic Education. South Africa has, in fact, corporal punishment in all settings is prohibited in South Africa because the Constitutional Court found the legal defense to be unconstitutional. But today, Mr. Maraba is going to talk about, I don't know, maybe, did you lose me? Okay. Mr. Maraba is going to talk about corporal punishment in the school settings. So over to you, Sami.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon to everyone. Can you see my presentation?
We can see it. Thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sami Maraba from South Africa. I will be presenting South Africa's progress on ending corporal punishment in schools. As an overview, corporal punishment in schools in South Africa has been banned since in 1996. However, it is still taking place in schools and homes. There are numerous research studies that have indicated that it is still taking place in our school settings and homes, such as the +1 study within our city of Tshwane, which is a capital city, revealed recently that 52% of learners had experienced corporal punishment in schools in the 2021 academic year. However, over the years, we've also seen a decline in the number of corporal punishment incidences since it has been banned since 1996. Recently, the General Household Survey of 2019 revealed that corporal punishment incidences had declined from 16% in 2009 to 6% in 2019. Now I'll just provide the delegates or attendees with the national legislations that have been developed and are being implemented towards ending corporal punishment and any form of violence against children in our country. So I'll start with our constitution, which very much clearly states that everyone has the right not to be treated or punished in a cruel and inhuman or degrading manner. And it is also supplemented by the Bill of Rights, Chapter 2, which indicates that everyone has an inherent dignity and all have the right to have their dignity respected. From an education perspective, I'll outline the various educational policies that have been developed to counter corporal punishment, starting with the National Education Policy Act, which indicates that prohibits anyone from administering corporal punishment in schools. The South African Schools Act also prohibits anyone from administering corporal punishment in schools. And it also stipulates that anyone who contravenes is guilty of an offense or may be subjected also to criminal charges. And our SASA, the South African Schools Act, further advocates that to manage discipline, schools have to adopt a code of conduct. However, this code of conduct have to be aligned to positive discipline measures. They have to reflect the ethos of positive discipline and not be punitive. We've also have the Children's Act 38 of 2005, which also advocates for the care and protection of all children, and it emphasizes the rights of children, this act. And most importantly, it also forces the accounting officer, in this instance is the Director General, to keep and maintain what we call the National Child Protection Register. Now, this register is meant to name and keep a list of all people or citizens who have been found guilty of abusing children, so that they may not be, work in any areas that may, or any jobs that may require them to deal with children. And recently, we also had a constitutional ruling which declared the use of corporal punishment in homes as unconstitutional. There was a case that involved a father who recently was found guilty of beating up his child for watching pornography, and the constitutional court declared that the father should have used other forms of discipline to discipline the child, and declared the use of corporal punishment as unconstitutional. However, the process of criminalizing it is still in process. As for what South Africa has done in terms of programs to counter corporal punishment, we have developed alternatives to corporal punishment in schools as a guide, and to be used in all schools. And we've also developed a protocol to deal with incidences of corporal punishment recently in 2017. I'll just outline the substance or the content of the various strategies that I just stated now. In terms of alternative to corporal punishment, it's more focused on positive discipline than punishment. That is the ethos of it. Behind it is to restore the child, and this corporal punishment alternatives, it primarily focuses more on your demerit system, as well as your detention, providing various strategies on how to discipline children instead of using corporal punishment. It also compels schools to establish code of conduct, whereby good behavior is being incentivized. If children behave good in a good manner, you incentivize them and say they will not do it. They will refrain from cleaning a classroom, or refrain from doing all these other things. And also it says to this forces schools to also engage the learners themselves in managing discipline. So it becomes more of a bottom-up approach rather than a top-down approach where learners are forced, don't do this, but they had no input on it. So it just forces that collaborative effort within the schooling environment to, develop and implement some form of rules to code or code of conduct to govern everyone within the school setting. As for the protocol to deal with incidents of protocol, this was established recently, and it reinforces the banning of corporal punishment. It was needed primarily because we still saw that there was still a number of incidents that were occurring regarding corporal punishment in schools. So the Department of Basic Education took it upon itself to develop this protocol involving all key stakeholders. And this protocol, it outlines the roles and responsibilities of key stakeholders in dealing with corporal punishment. That speaks to your teachers, that speaks to your senior management teams, your school principals, your parents, your school governing bodies, even your learner representative. They have a responsibility towards the banning of corporal punishment, and your teacher unions and other critical stakeholders. We just to name a few, the South African Council of Educators, which is responsible for the registration of teachers. They also have a role to play in terms of ensuring that corporal punishment is ended in schools. And this protocol also articulates the disciplinary procedures for educators, either accused of corporal punishment or found guilty, what should happen to them, what processes should happen, how the time frames that are required to conclude their cases, and furthermore. As for progress regarding those two strategies that I just stated, all schools have been trained on the alternatives to behavior management, or or corporal punishment and do not involve the use of corporal punishment. That puts an emphasis more on positive discipline. So all schools have been trained on those positive discipline strategies, and they are very much quite aware of them. And on the protocol on dealing with incidences, the training workshops are still at an ongoing basis. However, they've happened in a number of our provinces and school districts. And the change in behavior is also reinforced through annual circulars, which we release to ensure the legislative uptake. With regards to the International Day to End Corporal Punishment, I just wanted to indicate what South Africa will be doing just to reinforce and to make the sector aware of us trying to end corporal punishment. So we will be releasing a circular to enforce an end to corporal punishment, which will reach approximately at least 25,000 of our schools. And the Deputy Minister of Basic Education will also release a short video to all media houses reiterating the ban of corporal punishment. And then just our sister department, the Department of Social Development, which is responsible also for advocating corporal punishment in homes. They will continue with their broader strategy of gender-based violence in schools and in homes, drugs and substance abuse. So corporal punishment also forms part of that strategy, that national strategy, because we also have what we call a second pandemic, which is known as gender-based violence in our country. So all forms of violence, the state has taken it upon itself to implement measures to try and reduce that form of violence, and corporal punishment really forms part of that strategy. And this strategy is led by the presidency the department. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Sami, for this very interesting presentation about South Africa's effort to end corporal punishment in all settings, and particularly in the school settings. We could see that corporal punishment had been banned in schools since for some years now, 1996. And then obviously the Department of Basic Education has developed many protocols and policies to ensure that the law is implemented. And then you mentioned a survey that showed a significant drop in the use of corporal punishment in South African schools. So that's very interesting experience. And the training, because obviously there are also training, and then other, I can see even for the International Day of to end corporal punishment, further actions are being taken. Decision makers are actually coming out and then releasing videos. You're going to publish a circular. So this is very interesting also to see that there are also disciplinary procedures and involving all stakeholders. So that's very interesting. Thank you for the presentation from the Department of Basic Education in South Africa. And I note that also other departments are involved. We can see the Department of Social Development. So this is interesting. So we were planning to have maybe 1 or 2 questions in the meantime, and then we would move on to the next set of presentations. So I don't know if we have any question, Bess, from, we don't have anything, because otherwise we may have a couple of questions that were sent to us before. Shall I go ahead and?
Yes, go ahead with that, I think.
Yes, well, maybe, so those questions will be addressed to, I suppose, South Africa, Colombia, and Georgia, if one of them we want to answer, but I'll ask maybe one to start with. So what challenges countries are facing while enforcing corporal punishment, especially with parents and guardians? And I'm asking this question knowing that 3 countries have just prohibited in all settings from 2019, 2021. So it may be that not much experience. There's not much experience in terms of implementation. And yet we'll ask that question, maybe interaction with parents. What are the challenges that maybe you've met so far when campaigning, talking about prohibition in the home, when talking to parents and guardians? Maybe, I don't know, Maka or Diego, we want to say something?
Yeah, I will respond. Thank you for that question. Yeah, I think that this is like a common problem for all countries. not specifically for Georgia or for Colombia, etc. Because when we are talking about the corporal punishment, we know that behind that is the awareness and education of the parents.
Sonia, après, Sonia, après, je demande la parole.
Ok, on la laisse là.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
The main problem is an education and awareness of the parents, because for Georgia, it's a real problem.
Sonia. Allô?
Oui.
Sonia, après? Allô, tu m'entends? Tu m'entends pas?
Non. Non. Si tu peux attendre que Maca parle.
OK. De toute façon, après toutes les présentations, allô?
Oui. Allô?
Oui, allô, tu m'entends?
Oui, j'entends.
Voilà, je dis après toutes les présentations qui avaient été programmées. Tu m'entends?
Il faut parler parce qu'il y a la traduction, il y a l'interprétation.
OK, je dis donc après toutes les présentations qui ont été programmées, si ça vous plaît, passez-nous la parole. Nous allons un peu vous partager aussi ce qui est fait au niveau du Burkina Faso. Même si nous n'avions pas auparavant, nous ne nous étions pas inscrits pour justement présenter une communication. Néanmoins, nous allons vous partager en 1 ou 2 minutes quand même ce qui est fait au niveau du Burkina Faso depuis qu'on est pays pionnier depuis octobre 2019. Donc, comme on ne s'était pas inscrit, c'était juste pour ça, quoi, si c'est possible.
Okay, there's no problem. That's the whole idea, and then we go very fast so that we make sure that we have a discussion. The idea was to have some presentation, national experience, and then after that, other pathfinding country will come and then explain what they do at local level and national level. So there's no problem. So we'll go back to Maca quickly, and then after that we can move to the other presentation. Thank you, Maca.
Merci.
Over to you.
I'll continue, and I will be very short. So I was talking that in spite of the fact that Georgia has prohibited corporal punishment by the adopting the legislation, it still remains a problem. And the causes of this problem is the awareness and perception and attitude of the parents, because the majority of the parents still think that using corporal punishment is a good instrument to build a discipline within the family, and like they have so-called good aims and kind aims when they are using this corporal punishment. So our task is to change this stereotype, to change this attitude. That's why we are conducting the public awareness raising campaigns in all fields, not only in the schools and with a young generation, but also among the elder person, like parents and public servants, etc., etc. So we're trying to somehow change this attitude, which still remains in Georgia. And in the parallel, we also established a strong, powerful mechanisms to combat corporal punishment by giving authority to the police to intervene in the violation while the victim is a child. For example, if there is a domestic violence and the violence was used against children, even with the aim to promote the discipline within the family. So here the police is authorized to issue restrictive order against the offender, who might be a parent or I don't know, any law guardians. And also police officer also authorized to remove the child from the family if there is still a risk to repeat violence against children. So this is briefly about the measures, how we address this challenge. And besides it, as I said, we are going to integrate this topic in all level of the education, the basic level and upper level, and also in the level of trainings for public servants like law enforcers, teachers, etc., etc. That was shortly I could say on after this question.
Thank you, Marka. Diego, if you allow me, maybe you will talk next time. Later, because now we're short of time, and I can see that other countries are really willing to speak. So, Bess, over to you. Yeah,
thank you.
Maybe it's Cote d'Ivoire. So up to you.
Yes, thank you so much. Really fascinating case studies already. So next on our agenda was possibly a speaker from Cote d'Ivoire. Is there anybody here who is planning to speak? If not, no problem. We will.
I can see. Mr.
Oui, bonjour.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Hervé Aka, je suis donc directeur pays de Graines de Paix, une ONG suisse qui est également en Côte d'Ivoire et qui travaille un peu aussi sur cette problématique-là. Je vais juste présenter un peu notre approche de lutte contre tout ce qui est châtiment corporel. Nous intervenons plus dans le cadre de l'éducation. Je ne sais pas si la traduction me suit. Allô, on s'entend?
Yes, we can hear. Thank you. It's very good.
OK. Oui, donc nous, c'est au niveau de l'éducation, il faut d'abord savoir que la Côte d'Ivoire fait quand même beaucoup d'efforts pour lutter contre les châtiments corporels. Et au niveau déjà de l'éducation, il y a une base juridique également qui permet de lutter contre cela. L'État de Côte d'Ivoire a déjà en 2009 pris un arrêté qui interdit donc toute forme de violence et de châtiment à l'encontre des élèves. Également, il y a un code de conduite qui donc donne des prescriptions d'attitude aux enseignants par rapport aux élèves. Et nous, en tant que Graines de Paix, ce que nous faisons, comme nous participons, nous contribuons à une éducation de qualité. Pour nous, une éducation de qualité, c'est une éducation également qui est basée sur la pédagogie positive. Et donc, à ce niveau, dans nos interventions, on essaie donc d'outiller parce que pendant longtemps en Afrique, la chicotte, les châtiments corporels ont été vus comme des formes d'éducation. Donc déjà, c'est culturel. Maintenant, le défi, c'est quoi? Quand on dit, par exemple, à un enseignant au niveau de l'école, ne frappe pas, ne brime pas, quelquefois, devant certaines attitudes, il ne sait pas quelle posture adopter pour quand même affirmer son autorité de maître. Et donc, donc quand on donne le discours de sensibilisation pour ne pas porter des violences, il faut aussi, à côté, apporter l'attitude, le comportement qui sied à l'enseignant pour faire face à, à certains comportements de l'élève, de peur de perdre son autorité. Et donc, après, on va dans tous les sens, même si on parle de lutte contre le châtiment corporel. Et nous savons également que les châtiments corporels sont des facteurs qui donc contribuent, à l'arrêt de la scolarité de beaucoup d'enfants. Et donc, ce que nous faisons, c'est que dans notre approche, nous essayons donc d'outiller les enseignants. Par exemple, on a une formation sur la gestion des émotions. Parce que si on n'arrive pas à gérer ces émotions devant certaines pratiques, certains réflexes des enfants, naturellement, on va forcément revenir à ce qu'on veut proscrire. Donc, l'enseignant est formé, il est outillé. Et puis, dedans également, on fait intervenir les travailleurs sociaux, qui sont donc des agents du ministère de la Femme, Famille, Enfants, que eux également aident surtout pour l'identification et le référencement des cas de violence. Parce que certains enfants, souvent, sont un peu apeurés, ils ont du mal à donner des informations quand ils sont brimés. Donc, dans notre approche, comme on le dit, on a des gens qu'on outille, on a des formations, des sensibilisations, on a des outils pédagogiques qu'on développe, qui sont mis en œuvre et qui sont donc remis aux enseignants pour leur permettre d'être efficaces dans leur métier. Donc, nous procédons plus au niveau donc, de l'école, parce que pour nous, l'enfant d'aujourd'hui, c'est l'adulte de demain. Et si maintenant, on arrive déjà à travailler sur ces enfants-là, c'est sûr que demain, on aura des parents, des gens formés qui ne vont pas donc répliquer ce qu'ils ont appris. Parce que l'une des conséquences, et ce qui fait qu'on procède par l'école, c'est que ceux qui sont victimes de violence, ils ont tendance à les répliquer demain sur d'autres enfants. Donc, pour briser la chaîne, il faut aller pour nous à la base. Et la base, c'est l'enfant. La base, c'est là où l'enfant est éduqué. Pour nous, l'enfant est éduqué à la maison et à l'école. Et l'enfant d'aujourd'hui, c'est l'adulte de demain. Si donc aujourd'hui, dans son éducation, il a été éduqué et formé sans violence, sans châtiment corporel, demain, il sera un parent qui va comprendre qu'on peut éduquer sans aussi passer par le châtiment corporel. Donc, nous essayons déjà de préparer demain en agissant donc, au niveau de l'école.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Hervé. That's really an important contribution. I think the importance of not just taking away violent punishment, but in its place, giving people tools to use, giving parents and teachers tools to use is such an important message. Without any further ado, I will pass on to our next speaker, who is Annika Paasivita, Senior Advisor at the Central Union for Child Welfare in Finland. Thank you so much, Annika.
Yes, thank you very much. I share my screen, just a minute, my slides here. And you see my slides now? Yeah. Yes, very good. So hello and greetings from Finland to you all. And thank you for inviting us to share our experiences from this very important theme. I am Annukka Paasivirta and I am Senior Advisor here from the NGO, the Central Union for Child Welfare. And this presentation I have made done together with Finnish Ministry of Social Affairs and Health and Finnish Institute of Health and Welfare. And this, my headline is quite promising title, but I have to start to tell that in Finland also we are in this long journey still, and this implementation of legislation is a long journey that we are on it. Just a minute, I can. Yes, they're here. First, I saw some statistics how well is the law known in Finland nowadays, and what kind of attitudes we have considering corporal punishment and disciplinary violence. In the Central Union for Child Welfare, we have a long history in monitoring Finnish parenting attitudes and methods. We have carried out the service since 1980s, and the corporal punishment of children was outlawed in Finland. It was the second country in 1984. And it was the Child Custody and Right of Access Act, which says that the child shall not be subdued, corporally punished, or otherwise humiliated. So we made a last survey, it was last year, and it shows that Finns knew very well that physical punishment of children is banned by law. And clear majority of Finns do not approve of corporal punishment, even in exceptional circumstances. But still, last year it shows that 88% didn't know that corporal punishment was forbidden by the law, and especially under 35-year-old respondents, it was even 17%. And that I think tells that it needs overall this education and even more information at this subject still. This is a figure that shows that the answer to the question physical punishment of children, how the Finns think that at least is it in exceptional circumstances, is it acceptable method of disciplining? And this development has been very positive. Before the ban, and it shows the 1984, before the ban of corporal punishment, approximately 50% of Finns thought that physical discipline practices were acceptable. while in last year this figure has dropped to 14%. And although it's quite same as the 4 years ago, it's in this 14%. And it also shows that there are men and women things a little bit different, and corporal women's attitude to corporal punishment have been overall more negative than men. So how we have done it and what needed to be done besides the important legislation. We have over decades had several wide public campaigns, and there has been a big role of several NGOs. And we have done also long-term collaboration between several public authorities, and there has many development programs. So the legislation isn't enough. We still need to do several actions together. And now we have in Finland, we have this called Nonviolent Childhood Action Plan. It's from years to 20 to 25. And it's a large and very informative package. It contains 93 actions for preventing emotional, physical, and sexual violence against under 18 years old children. And the action plan deals with the right of the child, inclusion, factors that protect against violence, as well as risk factors and their consequences. And the aim is to improve the position of child victim in the current services, care, and crime systems, and also taking into account those children who are at risk of ending up using or have already used violence. So it's a very large program. And there have been a broad group of experts from various organizations, ministries, and NGOs, and who have wrote this action plan. And there is also a steering group nominated by the Finnish Institute for Health and Welfare, who is also responsible for monitoring and directing the objectives and actions. And most important, we also think that is this multi-sectoral and preventive work, how to increase the supportive and positive parenting. Finland has a long and well-monitored tradition to support parenthood and mental health, as well as help children and youth and families in maternity and child health clinic services, as well as in school healthcare services. And we have also been developing family centers where all sectors could work together. For example, child welfare, maternity and child health clinic, NGO, churches. And family centers have been developed all over the country as extensive and multidisciplinary and cross-administrative service concepts that are part of the service system. But despite the alignment of legislation and good national and international treaties, some children in Finland also are still subjected to violence of various types, both physical and especially emotional. So we need monitoring, coordination of national work and supporting leadership in different fields still. And we have also made our first Finnish child strategy. There is a link. We can share this slide afterwards. So who is coordinating also this work, our work here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Annika. Really interesting, and you kept to time. Thank you so much. That was, but I really took away the ongoing long-term commitment that you have made, the importance of support for parenting, ongoing monitoring, and the multi-sectoral approach as some of the key messages that I took from your presentation. Thank you so much. It's really interesting to hear a kind of a long-term approach. And just to say to everybody, if you want to know more about any area of work, either message people or contact Sonia or I, and we can help put people in touch. For example, I can see a question from South Africa to Georgia in the chat. So we want to encourage this kind of dialogue and cooperation. And so for our final presenter, we have Ms. Camille Grace Cariaga from the Philippines, I think. Thank you. Oh, I don't think we can hear you. We can't, there's no sound at the moment. No. Sometimes if you go to your little speaker, speaker button at the bottom, and then you can click select a speaker. Sometimes if you change that, it helps.
Hello, how about now? Can you hear me
Yes.
clearly?
Yes.
Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Sorry, can you hear me?
We can
Yes,
hear you.
Yes.
Okay. So again, I'm Camille from the Child Protection Unit of the Department of Education, Philippines. So the Department of Education is a national government agency in the Philippines, and we are primarily tasked to provide quality, inclusive, and liberating basic education. So I prepared a few slides so you can easily understand and visualize our work in the Philippines. So since I am from the Child Protection Unit, my discussion will revolve around our child protection policy. Next slide, please.
I think you're in control of them.
Okay. So again, this discussion will revolve around our child protection policy, and it is actually a government issuance under the name of DepEd Order number 40, series of 2012. So this policy reiterates our department's zero tolerance policy against all forms of abuse, exploitation, violence, discrimination, bullying, and other forms of abuse. So one of the forms of abuse we address is corporal punishment. So next slide, please. So just to give you a context, we define a child as a person below 18 years of age, or those over 18 but are unable to fully take care of themselves or protect themselves from abuse, neglect, cruelty, exploitation, or discrimination because of a physical or mental disability or condition. But for purposes of our work in the Department of Education, we also define a child as someone even above 18, as long as they are enrolled in a school or an educational institution. So for as long as a person is enrolled in a basic education school or educational institution, that person must be protected by the department. Next slide, please. So under our child protection policy, we define corporal punishment as one of the prohibited acts against our learners or students. Again, it refers to a kind of punishment or penalty imposed for an alleged or actual offense, which is carried out or inflicted for the purpose of discipline, training, or control by a teacher, school administrator, an adult, or any other child who has been given or has assumed authority or responsibility for punishment or discipline. So in the next slide, you will see the forms of corporal punishment here in the Philippines. So we prohibit blows such as, but not limited to, beating, kicking, hitting, slapping, or lashing any part of a child's body. We also prohibit striking a child's face or head, pulling hair, twisting joints, and other forms of physical abuse, even verbal abuse actually. So for our prevention, so to prevent corporal punishment, we implement capacity building activities for our teaching and non-teaching personnel. So even for our non-teaching personnel, we also have trainings, and we also implement awareness raising activities. We provide information, educational, and communication materials to our schools. So they will be educated on corporal punishment and positive discipline. Next, for punitive and remedial measures, we have administrative liability against perpetrators. So our teaching and non-teaching personnel in the Department of Education may face suspension or dismissal from service, since corporal punishment is a prohibited act in our department, and committing a prohibited act in our department constitutes grave misconduct. So if you are found guilty of grave misconduct, you may face suspension or dismissal from service. And also, the school head or the school administrators may refer a case to the local social welfare development office of the Philippines. So it's under another department. It's a referral mechanism. Next slide, please. So as one of our department's efforts to protect children, we established the Child Protection Unit. So this is an institutional approach, shared governance as well. So we have in the central office, we have our office from the Child Protection Unit. We also have a counterpart in the regional level, in the division level, and of course in the schools. So in our schools, we have the Child Protection Committees. Next slide, please. So the mandate of the Child Protection Unit is first to formulate policies on child protection. As of now, we have a policy on child protection in general, which is the BO40. We also have a policy on bullying and handling of cases for children in conflict with the law and children in armed conflict. So those are our main policies in protecting our children. We also integrate child protection in the basic education curriculum and instruction. And lastly, we initiate and coordinate cooperation or partnership activities pertaining to child protection. That's why we have this partnership with UNICEF. They also helped us establish our strategic plan. Next slide, please. So again, the child protection committees are found in schools. So they are composed of school head or administrator, the guidance counselor, a teacher representative, a parent representative, a student representative, and a community representative. So even our students are involved in protecting themselves. So that would be all for the Philippines. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was really interesting. I really took away the importance of a very clear framework and clear policies and procedures, the multi-sectoral approach and the importance of partnerships. And then it's really interesting to hear about children being involved as well at the end. Thank you so much. It's great to hear the Philippines experience. Can we ask if there's some other interventions? For example, we know that there is one from Burkina Faso. Would you like to talk for probably just a couple of minutes about what you've been doing? Just looking.
It's not, okay.
Is he still here?
Yeah, he's around.
Is there anybody else that would like to talk about there you go. Mr. Sylvain Zungrana, would you like to talk a little bit about your work in Burkina Faso?
Oui. Quelqu'un de Côte d'Ivoire également.
Okay, entendu. So
Allô?
someone from Cote d'Ivoire after.
Vous m'entendez?
Côte d'Ivoire, oui. Après
Vous
le
m'entendez?
Burkina.
Okay, Cote d'Ivoire next. Great. Go ahead.
Oui, Côte d'Ivoire.
Go ahead, Cote d'Ivoire. Thank you.
Oui,
Non.
d'accord. Merci bien. Vraiment, oui, c'est monsieur, comme vous le voyez, Joseph Bernier-Guédé. J'étais à l'éducation nationale en Côte d'Ivoire et j'ai participé à l'élaboration de la politique nationale de protection de l'enfant. Et maintenant, je suis à la retraite, mais je suis très intéressé par la protection de l'enfant. C'est pour cela que je participe vraiment à cette rencontre Et j'ai entendu toutes les politiques qui ont été développées dans les autres pays. Je pense que nous avons fait pratiquement la même chose, à savoir impliquer toutes les structures qui intéressent donc la protection de l'enfant, notamment par exemple l'éducation nationale, la santé, la sécurité, la communication, la justice, les ONG ainsi que les organisations des parents, d'élèves, des enseignants et autres. Donc, la Côte d'Ivoire a eu sa première politique de protection de l'enfant disons, en 2014. Et après, nous avons élaboré une politique sectorielle dans le secteur de l'éducation, parce que c'est là que la question réellement se pose. Donc là, nous avons mis en place un mécanisme de protection de l'enfant qui va depuis la base jusqu'à là-haut, c'est-à-dire depuis les écoles primaires, les écoles maternelles, jusqu'à la gestion supérieure du système éducatif. Et nous avons mis en place donc des différents comités auxquels participent également les élèves eux-mêmes et les parents d'élèves. Ensuite, nous avons institué des textes comme le code de conduite des personnels. Nous avons aussi décliné le processus de dénonciation et de signalement des cas de violence et avec donc les autres ministères partenaires pour que à la fin, la violence ne reste pas impunie. Il faut que l'auteur de violence soit puni. Alors, la question qui reste, c'est-à-dire les défis qui nous restent à relever, c'est dans la communauté, par exemple, on considère la violence corporelle comme une marque d'affection pour l'enfant, à savoir que quand on aime bien, on châtie bien. Donc, on frappe l'enfant pour l'amener à le mettre sur le bon chemin. Ça, c'est vraiment un défi qui demeure parce que dans la conscience des communautés, bon, il faut que l'enfant qu'on aime, qu'on veut qu'il devienne quelqu'un dans la communauté, soit redressé quand il commet des fautes. Au niveau de l'école, c'est la violence institutionnelle, à savoir que les enseignants, les gestionnaires des structures scolaires, de leur position de représentant de l'institution qu'est l'école, eh bien, ils commettent des abus sur l'enfant. Partie de cette position-là, et souvent, ils rencontrent l'adhésion même des parents qui disent que, bon, c'est le maître qui a dit, c'est le directeur qui a dit, donc nous le faisons. Donc, les enfants sont soumis souvent à des corvées qui dépassent leur âge. Et puis aussi, il y a l'abus sexuel, parce que l'enfant ne peut pas refuser à son maître ce que l'adulte demande. Bon, donc, ce sont ces deux défis-là qui nous restent vraiment à relever. Et je pense que ce genre de rencontre peut permettre de trouver des solutions terme. Je vous remercie.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Really important and helpful contribution. Again, yeah, the importance of policies, engaging a wide range of actors, codes of conduct, the importance of a response when policies are broken, and then work in communities and creating a change in community consciousness about hitting children. That was very helpful. Thank you so much. And I think our final intervention will be Mr. Sylvain Zungrana from Burkina Faso. I think we only have 5 minutes left, so a couple of minutes for you. Thank you.
Bonjour à tous et à toutes. Comment vous allez? Sonia, comme nous on est tout le temps en ligne, comment tu vas?
I'm fine, thank you.
Ok, Dieu merci. Donc, je me nomme Sylvain Relwende Zungrana. Je suis le secrétaire permanent du Conseil national pour l'enfance. Ici, au Burkina Faso, après qu'on a ratifié tous les instruments juridiques internationaux, à savoir la Convention relative aux droits de l'enfant et la Charte africaine, Alors, le Burkina Faso, depuis 1991, a mis en place une structure qu'on a appelée le secrétariat permanent du Conseil national pour l'enfance pour piloter tout ce qui est relatif à la promotion et à la promotion des droits de l'enfant. À ce titre, nous sommes chargés de l'élaboration des rapports pays pour ce qui est de la Convention relative aux droits de l'enfant, idem pour les rapports pays relatifs à la Charte africaine des droits et du bien-être de l'enfant. Alors, je suis accompagné aujourd'hui par mon collègue qui est chef de département en charge des études de la planification et du suivi et évaluation. Je vais rentrer dans le cadre de ce qui est fait au Burkina Faso pour lutter contre les violences d'une manière générale perpétrées contre les enfants et également ce qui est fait pour lutter contre les châtiments corporels dont sont victimes les enfants. Alors, il faudra également remercier le partenariat mondial pour avoir accepté notre candidature en octobre 2019 comme pays pionnier pour mettre fin aux violences faites aux enfants. C'est là au regard véritablement de ce que le Burkina Faso a fait et fait comme effort en la matière. Alors, depuis octobre 2019, le Burkina Faso est toujours dans cette dynamique de lutter contre les violences faites aux enfants. Ce qui fait que en mars 2020, le Burkina Faso a adopté ce qu'on a dit stratégie nationale 2020-2024 de protection de l'enfant. Voilà, qui est véritablement le référentiel phare au niveau du Burkina Faso pour lutter contre les violences faites aux enfants et d'une manière générale protéger l'enfant. Alors, après justement la stratégie nationale de protection de l'enfant qui implique pratiquement tous les ministères, ONG, associations intégrant et intervenant dans le domaine de la protection de l'enfant, le Burkina Faso également, en tant que pays pionnier, a organisé ce qu'on a appelé en fin 2021 les dialogues de haut niveau pour mettre fin aux violences faites aux enfants. À l'issue du dialogue, nous avons élaboré ce qu'on a appelé...
Oui? One more minute. Thank you. We nearly have to finish. Just round up because we're nearly at the end of our time. So just one more minute. Thank you.
OK. Merci bien. Donc, véritablement, j'espère qu'on aura l'occasion pour dire de manière véritablement détaillée ce que le Burkina Faso fait en matière de lutte contre les violences faites aux enfants d'une manière générale et ce qui est fait dans le cadre de la lutte contre les châtiments corporels dont sont victimes les enfants. Donc, en tout cas, en la matière, le Burkina Faso mène beaucoup d'actions. On a les textes législatifs, nous avons les actes réglementaires, nous avons ce que les acteurs mènent comme action sur le terrain pour mettre fin véritablement au châtiment corporel. Donc, merci bien et on aura l'occasion, j'espère, pour en parler suffisamment à une autre occasion.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry we're running out of time and we will have to create more opportunities to talk about these issues. I'm going to very quickly come to our speakers and ask them for one takeaway message from the work on this issue. So Diego, would you like to give us a very quick message?
Sí, muchísimas gracias. La clave está en el cambio social, en intervenir esos estereotipos, los imaginarios, esas normas sociales, para que eduquemos a padres, madres y los cuidadores también en no usar las distintas formas de violencia en ámbitos de la educación y la crianza de los niños, niñas y adolescentes. Un trabajo dirigido a la comunidad, en lenguaje sencillo, simple y que permita vincular a toda la población que interactúa en los distintos entornos. Esa creo, digamos, que puede ser el gran mensaje y que nosotros lo tenemos como apuesta en Colombia para poder combatir esa reacción negativa frente a este tipo de medidas. Gracias.
Thank you, Diego. I think we have time for one more. I will ask Maka from Georgia if you have one final message, and then I'll hand over to Sonia for goodbyes.
Yeah, thank you. I'll totally agree with Colombia that social change and awareness is the important part to combat corporal punishment. I would add the focus group of students, children and teenagers, because I think that it is also crucial to give them the comprehensive information about what should they expect from their parents. I mean, it is good to have mutual mechanisms like teach parents on good parenting and also teach kids what should they expect from their parents. So I think if this parallel actions will be a very good way to achieve the aim.
Thank you so much. I wish we had more time, but I will hand over to Sonia for the final.
Thank you. Just to say goodbye and then thank you very much. Because of the International Day to End Corporal Punishment, we thought we should get together, have pathfinding countries and have this informal discussion. We are all at different levels. For example, we know that Finland has prohibited corporal punishment in school since 1914. I think the first country ever to have prohibited, and others are still maybe having some just ministerial circulars. So and then we can see that we have challenges along the way. It's not that clear cut. And so it's good to get together and talk about it. It's a learning exchange, and that's the spirit of a pathfinding initiative, is for countries to share experiences. And then we hope that this will encourage a dialogue between countries, even not during a webinar, but we can get in touch privately and discuss about it. And then we're very happy. And then we hope to organize other exchanges like this one on other thematics. So we'll keep you posted. And then, thank you very much. And then we look forward to seeing you again. And feel free to get in touch with us. This has been recorded, so we're going to share the recording, and then that's it. And then more resources will come out soon. Thank you so much, and see you all very soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay. Bye-bye. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.